Our next speaker, first up for the afternoon slot, is Dave Cagney. David Cagney joined Pfizer in 1988, so 27 years with the company, and has taken up the position of site leader at the API site in Cork back in 2005, and in 2010 has become the site leader for Pfizer at their Newbridge plant since that time. And David is going to share his experience with us. Will you put your hands together, please, for Dave Cagney?
So, afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Right, perfect. Thank you very much. So, I just want to share with you our competitiveness journey at the Pfizer Newbridge site over the last 4-5 years, actually, since we've become part of Pfizer. So, one or two slides just on what Pfizer is and what Newbridge is first before I get into the journey proper. So, Pfizer is about innovation. It's about bringing new, innovative products, therapies to patients that significantly improve their lives. So that's the call out on Pfizer as an innovative company. Obviously, it has a very large portfolio of established products, which are a very important part of the business as well. So it's a company that comes from a number of traditions. And when you talk about, and we talk together within our network about competitiveness, the origins and different origins of groups within the network actually makes for very interesting and diverse discussions. So we Warner Lambert in 2000, Pharmacia came into the picture in 2003. I came in with that actually. And then Wyatt in 2009. And the site in Newbridge was part of the Wyatt organization, which is now part of the Pfizer organization. So that's made for some interesting discussions, as I say, diverse discussions. So Pfizer has 56 manufacturing sites worldwide, 77,000 employees, and sales revenue of 51 billion in 2013. So one of the larger players in the pharmaceutical market. The Pfizer Global Supply, which our manufacturing network, we've got 56 sites and 22,000 colleagues. And that's important in the context of sharing best practice within our network, which I will allude to as we go through the talk. This is our manufacturing network around the world, so it's quite diverse and spread around the world. We've got kind of key sites that are centres of excellence, and then local market sites responding to local market requirements. You must manufacture or some element of the product in certain countries, and it makes sense from a logistical point of view. So you can see Ireland there in the call-out bubble. So in Ireland we have Grange Castle, which is our worldwide centre of excellence for biopharmaceutical products. Ringaskiddy in Cork, which is our worldwide centre of excellence for introducing innovative small molecule products. And Little Island is associated with Ringaskiddy. And then ourselves in Newbridge, and we're a solid oral dose manufacturing facility, manufacturing tablets and capsules. So we're a bit in the middle. And when you look at what's happened to our network and look at the worldwide market over the last number of years, the consolidations that have taken place, increasing competitiveness, patent cliff, as John referred to earlier on. Things have become tight. Networks have consolidated. And for us in Newbridge, it's been very much a matter of knuckling down to become and to remain part of the manufacturing network. So I guess back in 2010, I was involved in discussions with our colleagues in New York about, can our business be competitive? Can we internally manufacture competitively? And there was a lot of people who said that's not possible. So it was a hearts and minds as well as a data-driven process over the last number of years to put Newbridge on the map. And we are now one of the 4 centres of excellence for solid oral dose worldwide, with a focus on specialised processes and containment. We're growing our business again, and we're also winning new third-party business from other large pharma as we utilise our assets to the full. So we have gone that journey. We have put ourselves into the competitive arena, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about the journey that we've had to get there. So that's Newbridge. It's in the centre of horsey country in Kildare, just outside Newbridge town. We've over 600 colleagues on site and contractors. Payroll is over $60 million and 33 million annual spend on locally sourced products. So it's a significant operation. And for us in Newbridge, that's been an added incentive to make it a viable, sustainable operation because it's so important to the locality and to the families that live there. So when I talk about competitiveness, what is competitiveness? Is it just cost or are there other factors? From a Pfizer PGS point of view, we look at it in this triangle. Quality is always at the top. If we have a quality problem, we stop and we fix it. All bets are off. You must fix those issues. And then you look at supply and cost and value. Now, with the market that we're in today, it's not the same as before. There are a great deal of many other competitive pressures with established products. Market success these days involves understanding your market and your customers in great detail. You can achieve a lot of success through market discontinuities. Nuala talked about stockouts. There's opportunities for other companies to come in and supply at premium prices if there's stock out elsewhere. You make sure you don't stock out, otherwise you get penalties. So there's a balance between cost and value, cost and delivery, and supply. For branded products, supply is critical. For products where there is a brand recognition, not so important. Cost, opportunistic supply can be important. So it's about understanding your marketplace really, really well. And that's a challenge for us as we go forward within Pfizer as a whole. So that's competitiveness and what it means. Oh, actually, there's a balance then. Just, that pendulum in the middle there, it's supposed to be pendulum anyway. I won't be recognizing it. Between the two, between supply and cost. Now, the reason I show you this, and those who are engineers in the room will recognize the haze and wheelwright thing. You probably have nightmares about this when you were undergraduates. But the reason I put this up, I believe it's very important because the first step on that is you must correct your worst problems first before you tackle your road to competitiveness. And finally, you must do the other steps before you can drive an operations advantage. That's our learning on this journey. The bit in the middle depends on your culture, where you want to start, the things you want to do. But you must do first things first, and you must have the rest done before you can finally deliver that operations advantage. And that's why I believe, I wanted to show that, why I believe it's important. So talking about correcting the worst problems that we had, I want to share with you what we did on that back in 2010. Firstly, we had to benchmark. Nuala showed up some St. Gallen, so POBAS was another one study which many people here might be familiar with. So we had to look at where we were in relation to POBAS. Also, some internal diagnostics programs that were carried out at that point in time to point the areas out to us. Also, looking at the asset we had, what were we doing with this asset as part of the new Pfizer organization? What parts were important and what could we lose? Depreciation goes to cost of goods. It's non-cash, but it's important in terms of your cost of goods. Also, competitive intelligence, looking at the cost of our products compared to the cost of competitor products and understanding the difference and making that difference relevant to the colleagues on site. If you don't, then they don't buy in. Then we launched what we call our RP3 program, it's an internal term, right product, right place. And across a number, it was a multifaceted program, looking at the assets that we have on site, what assets were important for the future, looking at our operating expenses, every element of P&L, looking at our end-to-end process efficiency, looking at our business processes, simplification, and finally then looking to grow our business. So that was a program, very intense program over a number of years. Some of the results from that program: plant expenses reduced by 40% on site. Now, the main element of that was headcount. Unfortunately, it made a big impact on headcount because we changed from the organization we had, which was probably very heavy compliance and top-heavy, based on priorities that we had in previous years, to very much a process-centered organization. You see the three circles I have there are very much a process-centered and built from there, which meant we de-layered, increased spans of control, moved from a controlling to a supporting organization, brought decision-making to a local level. So that led to significant headcount reduction. Also, as part of that, we threw out some BHAGs, 50% reduction in energy conservation. We didn't know we were going to achieve that. One of my colleagues on site talks about throwing the jumper over the wall. And I asked him one day, what the hell do you mean by throwing the jumper over the wall? And he explained to me, when he was a kid and you were robbing apples in an orchard, the kids wouldn't go in. So the first man in, was important. So you'd rob some young fella's jumper, throw it over the wall, and then he had to go in and get it, and that was the ice broken, right? So let's throw in the jumper over the wall. And we had to do that. We had to set some really challenging targets, and we have achieved them. And the reason we've achieved them was because of the engagement and colleagues on site and understanding what we had to do. So I want to describe that element of it to you now. So that's the worst problems corrected. That's stage one. The next element for us was building engagement. So the reason I want to show you this is we spent months talking about this. Months trying to develop a symbol. What are we about? What's our place in the network? Remember, Grange Castle and Ring of Skiddy, it's very clear what they do. For us, as one of 4 plants, how do we become part of that network and how do we get people to believe in it? So we established this, and we had an artwork competition on site actually. We established this. So it's 5 people. It's a bridge, which is Newbridge. It's colleagues supporting each other hand in hand. It's overcoming an obstacle. There's a bridge over something, right? And we developed a motto with that. One team, supplying value simply in brackets or in italics at the bottom, at the end. Why simply in italics? People, what does simply mean? We're a complex operation, don't undersell us. But simply was about simplifying our operation greatly, and I'll show you how in a little while. So that was a great discussion. Value. The head of PGS came over and he looked at value and said, value, that must be recognized value, recognized in the context of the customer. And one team, that one team element is so important, and you'll see from the rest of the slides why that is the case. That's the second time that fell down. Right. Oh, okay. Right, so we spent quite a lot of time engaging the hearts and minds of our colleagues on site in what we were about going forward. Along with that, we put together a vision of where we wanted to get to, which reflects our unique capabilities and that will deliver future value. So that went with it, so I don't want to go into that. But you can see we spent a long time building people's commitment to a vision for the site that would sustain us for the future. What we did then was develop a strategy for the site based on that vision. That was the vision. That's how you're going to get there. This vision is very important for us. It's everywhere on the site. It's not just on my goals and objectives on a presentation somewhere. It's everywhere around the site. It's hanging from the ceiling. It's on the walls. As all of the stuff I'm going to show you, because engagement of your workforce is so important. There are 2 fundamental strategies here. Deliver the fundamentals, and then there's 3 go-forward strategies. Competitiveness, value through technology innovation, and then the middle one is the engagement of people. Now, Joe earlier on talked about the change curve. So we talked about the change curve, and we put this on the wall. It wasn't just A3 as Richard was talking about. This was a huge wall with this thing, floor to ceiling. And we asked colleagues on site, put yourself on that thing, take a sticky and put yourself up there. So where did most people put themselves, do you think? They actually put themselves over here on the right-hand side. People put themselves over there. And to Joe's point earlier on, that was a problem. That was a problem that people put themselves right through the change curve because we didn't go through the pain. We didn't go through the pain of owning the reality and owning the opportunity. Because if you don't do it early on, then it's going to hit you later. So that's why that was really important for us as part of our journey, to recognize that and have open discussion about it. The next element was how do we operate and how we operate going forward. And I'm going to show you the macro level and then the micro level. At a macro level, the important thing was that I told you we based our organization around teams and accountability, that leaders support our teams, and it's the teams that make the decisions. So it's a supportive leadership model, and it's an inverted pyramid. You've probably seen those. The thing about an inverted pyramid is it's going to fall over. It's going to fall over unless you provide the coaching so that people behave. We heard about behavior so much today. So much, you have to spend the effort into coaching people to the right behavior. And the other side of it then is the tools and techniques, and we've seen some of those, and I'll show you some of ours, the standard work and all of that, on that side. And with that foundation, with that stabilizing foundation, then you have a basis to go forward and make this a successful organization that delivers high performance. Then, at a team level, I'll put the whole thing up there. We heard about asset care this morning, some fantastic examples there from Richard and also from Eddie. Standard work. So standard work about doing things the one best way every time. But the other part of our triangle is the process teams, and they need to work together. So you develop your standard work processes, your asset care, your process teams working together. Without that element, the holistic approach, I believe, has been key for our success. And how do we sustain that? And when you talk about sustaining competitiveness, it's the bit in the middle, what we call leader standard work. Leader standard work is about the commitment of leaders to making sure that the processes work and that the behaviors are right and they're sustained. We had a lot of trouble establishing leader standard work. I had a lot of trouble with it personally. About 25% of my week is occupied in leader standard work, where I go around the site at various meetings. And the important element for me is to confirm the processes that are taking place and to confirm the behaviors that people are exhibiting, right? And we actually have a process confirmation sign-off in the areas, and there's a discipline involved in this, which is hard to get there. And we've had about 3 iterations. And this year, we believe we're starting to get it right. So leader standard work is an essential element for leadership commitment to go forward. Then also the coaching left-hand side. So these elements here. The one on the right-hand side, for those psychotherapists in the room, is the Eric Berne transactional analysis model. So we focus on adult-adult conversation. And the one on the left is the Joe Harry window. It's these fellows, Jonathan something and Harrington something. So Johari is not such a kind of exotic thing, it's just a combination of 2 names. But it's all about understanding what you don't know about yourself, right? It's about being open to feedback and creating that awareness about yourself. Now, the reason I put these up is that they're up all over the walls in our plant. This is part of the common language. When we talk about straight talk and teams engaging, this is what we mean. People engaging in adult-adult conversation. So this is part of our terminology on the site. People on the site know the PAC model. An interesting quote that I picked up at our leader strategy meeting at the beginning of this year was a book that was summarized in the Irish Times by Stidger and Sakari Cooper. And the quote was, the revelation of a common trait of leaders continuing to hold on to high performers who consistently demonstrate or fail to demonstrate desired behaviors. That for me was hugely thought-provoking. Holding on to high performers that consistently fail to demonstrate desired behaviors. So we all do that. We all do that, and we all demonstrate or fail to demonstrate the desired behaviors every day. We're engineers, we're scientists, and what have you, and these behaviors are not easy. So what are those behaviors? Here's an example of some of them. We talked about them this morning. They're overt, they're up on our walls. People understand what they are, and we spend time talking about it. So the right-hand side of that triangle from earlier on, what's on the right-hand side? So on the bottom of it here is fundamental problem solving. Method 1, Method 2, Method 3. Nuala referred to Jeremy Diaccio earlier on, who was our lead for GTS. He talked about trying to lean out 3 Sigma processes. You can't do that. You must solve your basic problems first so that your level of repetitiveness, you understand root cause. That's method 1, 2, 3. And then lean out after that. And a key element of that, by the way, is human error analysis. And there are a set of tools now that we have and we use regularly on site, Pfizer Human Performance, or PHP as it's called. And that has really helped us to understand, particularly repeat problems, root cause, and eliminate it completely. So that's tier 1 and tier 2 levels of investigation on human error. And then the other elements of that are process capability and all that kind of thing. Moving from effectiveness to efficiency driven by lean. So then how do we link that third element of that chart earlier on, linking the whole thing to your operation? How do we do that? At an operational level, we've got shift meetings that take place every shift, rolling up into daily team meetings everywhere on the site, rolling up into weekly leader meetings, which rolls up into a scorecard. Everybody on site today understands what the top 3 problems on site are. Everybody on site understands the balanced scorecard and their own balanced scorecard, which rolls up through a cascade process into the site scorecard. That understanding of the business and your personal impact on the business is critically important, and it's discussed every single day. And that's what we confirm through leader standard work. Then the strategic, the 3 go-forward strategies I talked about earlier on, how do we sustain those? We do that through what we call the whole chicanery process. Each one of those strategies there has a meeting. There's a steering meeting for it. And then there's an execution meeting for it, which is a half an hour only. So it's all within the 25% in the week. So at the steering meeting, we talk about where's the go forward on that strategy. What are we doing about it? What's the expansive thinking? And then at the other meeting, the execution meeting, it's reductive thinking. Where are we on scope? Are we on cost? Are we on schedule? What's the resource clashes and all that kind of thing? 2 separate meetings, 2 separate mindsets. But that helps to drive forward our strategies. We talked about that earlier on this morning. Unless you have clear strategies, you're not going to get there. I have an interesting slide later on I just want to share with you too. Standard work, we've talked about that. For us, the reason I put this slide up, standard work starts at 12 o'clock up there. So 12 o'clock, you develop your standard work and your time frame. How am I doing time-wise? Then you've got the continuous improvement cycle on it. Now, the reason I mention this is that standard work has times associated with it, but you've heard of the concept of share of voice. If your conversation is about time, that's what people are going to do. The conversation needs to be about the one best way every single time. That's what standard work is about. The other key element is the innovation equation. If you just work on standard work and eliminating and waste reduction, you'll top out. You've got to have the expansive thinking through innovation tools which deliver you new sources of value for the future. And we've got tools that we use like playfulness, like greenhousing, Scamper, things like that, which help people on the expansive thinking. And then one other element is culture. To sustain, you need a culture. There's 2 elements I just want to quickly mention to you. Zero defects culture is a focus on eliminating defects. Never let a defect pass. It's a mindset, but we use that to drive the whole standard work, right first time approach. And secondly, own it. We own the business. So we are delivering results. We have a role. I mentioned it earlier on. We have engaged colleagues. Planned expenses have continued to drop. That's the sustain part. And as well as that, we've been recognised with the President's Award in Pfizer for the last 3 years running, and also this year, which will happen next month. And these are our lessons learned. I've talked about most of them already. The second one, though, I do want to talk about the concept of clear vision and strategy, and I want to show you this slide here. You've probably seen it before. This is Stephen Covey, right, for doing things right. On the jar on the left, if you fill the jar up with the small sand first and then try to put stones in, you get nowhere. If you take an empty jar and put your stones in first, you fill it up with the sand. In other words, if you focus on the operational detail, that's all you'll see. You won't see the rest of it. You've got to have your strategies in first, right? Because your day-to-day work's going to consume you. That's why those strategies, for me, are so important. You've got to have the fundamental acceptance of the compelling need for change. I talked about that earlier on. We are so far off the mark, and also the product cost. And I guess I've said enough. Well done. All right? Well done. Thank you. Well done.